Hello and welcome to the National League Playoff Final Preview from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. It's Solihull Moors versus Grimsby Town. Solihull Moors have never been in the Football League before. They have finished in third place and Grimsby in sixth. Grimsby could create history by being the first team, the lowest ranked side, to ever get promoted from the National League to the Football League. Let's start off with the away team that is Grimsby Town. They obviously started lower. They've had more games in this playoff run. The first game they played Notts County, and he went right down to the very last minute of extra time, winning 2-1.
I think Grimsby's playoff run is summed up in one word, which is drama, isn't it? I mean, carbon copies in both games, but the Notts County one in particular, they were actually phenomenal. And if we look back to how different it could have been, they were a couple of minutes in normal time from going out. It was a very late equaliser, an inadvertent assist by the goalkeeper, which you're still not having to this moment. But it was it was brilliant. They battered Notts County for the most part. And then in the end, they had to come back in. I think it was the 95th minute to get the equaliser. In extra time, they were strong, and back-to-back extra times, obviously, we'll get to in a minute. But late winners, brilliant performances. And there's a lot to be said about a manager that's been there and done it. We've talked about it throughout the playoffs, even up in the EFL throughout the last month or so. And Grimsby and Paul Hurst have got a man that's not only done it before, but has done it at this club before, albeit a number of years ago. So a brilliant start to their playoff run. But I'm sure the most memorable bit of it, is the bit that you're about to talk about next.
Yeah, it gets to the second playoff game. They're away at Wrexham, and it was quite a ridiculous playoff game. And somehow they went on to win 5-4 in extra time. Not an aggregate, because there's only one leg against for these eliminators, but 5-4 in extra time.
It was chaos, absolute chaos, the game. One of the things that I found hilarious about it is that both teams had a long throw. Obviously, Bento's is quite famous. Grimsby's was brilliant as well. But neither team could defend it to save their lives. So we just saw set pieces causing carnage throughout the game. It was a wonderful game of football. You could argue Grimsby were both lucky and unlucky because the penalty that went against them probably wasn't. There probably should have been another penalty against them that wasn't given. Paul Mullin scored probably the closest goal to Maradona I've seen since Maradona to make it. I think it was 3-2 at the time. But it was just a brilliant game of football. If ever you wanted an advert for the entertainment and the excitement of the National League, it was it. Grimsby prevailed again a few days after 120 minutes to do the same again, to score in the 119th minute again, to be so front-footed and so fit in comparison to their rivals was incredible. And do you know what? They're a side that after a brilliant start this season, I mean, I tipped them to win the league. They looked like they were going to do it for the first 11 or 12 games. They were virtually invincible. They fell away. And now they've just come strong at the right time. John McAtee deserves a special mention. I know we'll get onto the key men later. Scored a great goal in that Wrexham game, is a superstar. But Grimsby's run to the final basically means we've got two form teams at the London Stadium on Sunday, which I think is going to make it a much better game.
You have to give them a lot of credit because it's not like they've had the home games in this eliminator. Both they had to go away to tough grounds as well in the Meadow Lane and at the racecourse.
Yeah, and I was going to mention this as a comparison to Solihull, as will that actually end up being a benefit? Because obviously Solihull have only played the one home game. Grimsby have played both on the road, both very imposing places, probably two of the biggest regular attendances, two of the biggest stadiums in the National League. There were good 9,000 at Wrexham. There was over 10,000 at Notts County. And to deal with those atmospheres maybe prepares you better. I know it's not for Wembley Stadium this time, but London Stadium, there's going to be a massive crowd there. I know Grimsby at the time of recording have sold well over 10,000 tickets. I think it's going to be an absolutely brilliant occasion. And like you, I wonder if that might help them be equipped better than perhaps Solihull Moors are, having only played the one home game.
Yeah, let's go on to Grimsby opponents, Solihull Moors. They finished third in the league on the final day, so that they didn't have to play that eliminator due to Halifax losing to Stockport on that final day, so pipped it into third. Just the one game they've had to play. They beat Chesterfield by 3-1. Had to come from behind that one as well, so you have to give them a little bit of credit as well.
Yeah, and it was another game that, I mean, let's be fair, these National League playoffs have probably been the most entertaining set of playoff games I can remember for a long time, and I hope that stays the case on Sunday. But Solihull, they started really poorly. They were on the ropes for a little while there, and getting a goal back fairly quickly was massive for them. After that, Chesterfield's confidence gradually started to go again. And in the end, it was a pretty comfortable victory in the second half, albeit there were a few chances late on. The one thing you've got to say, though, is Neil Ardley, having left Notts County, who are probably no better off for not having him there, other than footballing wise, he's done a brilliant job to get another side into the playoffs. They sort of went a bit under the radar. They're the only club really in that top 6 or 7 that no one's really talked about this year. You've had the massive talking about Wrexham and obviously Stockport in that title race. Halifax were on their coattails for a long time, and then Notts County, Grimsby and Chesterfield, all big former EFL clubs. But Solihull have just gone under the radar. They actually finished the season as the form team, won all of their last 5 league games, won in the semi-final of the National League playoff, have looked brilliant in doing so. They're one of the top scorers in the league, the top scorer after the top 2 teams. They play brilliant football. They're a wonderful side, and they're very solid as well with some exciting young players. So maybe it is going to be their year based on the squad on the pitch, because they were a lot closer to the top 2 than Grimsby, a lot more consistent over the year. But I think Neil Ardley deserves a lot of credit for the job he's done there, because for me, they've probably been the surprise package of the season. Neither of us had them up there.
Both managers, Paul Hurst and Neil Ardley, as you said, they've both got player final experience. Paul Hurst obviously took Grimsby back up to the Football League the first time. And Neil Ardley took AFC Wimbledon up to League One. So both managers with experience. How crucial is that?
It is crucial. But I guess if we're looking at recent National League experience, could it be even more crucial that Ardley's had unsuccessful ones with Notts County at this level recently as well? Obviously, that big final defeat to Harrogate. He's not had the best run in the National League, but there are 2 managers that have done well in the playoffs before. Paul Hurst is brilliant. I mean, we interviewed Gregor Robertson, who was in that Grimsby Town team last time, and he talked about how good he was there. And they'd lost the year before they went up as well. It's a clash of styles again. Solihull have got a great footballing outfit. Grimsby, brilliant from set pieces, got individual magic in the side. The battle of the managers is something that is always going to be played up. There's a lot of big name managers at the top of the National League now, and they're 2 of them. But I think it will be playing styles that settle it rather than the managers on this occasion.
Let's have a look at who you think are the players to watch for this final. Let's start with Solihull Moors.
I mean, I could pick out quite a lot because there's a few players I really like in the team. Sabara in the middle is one that I really love, but you have to go for Andrew Dallas. He's the 20-goal man. We saw it in all of the EFL playoffs. Strikers decide games. We said it in the League One playoff final. It was proven to be the case. We've said it throughout. Even in the League Two playoff final, the strikers that turned up made the difference. And maybe Andrew Dallas is that man again. He's a goal scorer. They've got big 6'9" Carl Hudlin up there as well. They've got so many different threats. But Solihull are a good footballing team, and I think it's going to be decided not by a set piece for them going forward. I think it's going to be by a flowing move along the floor. So Sabara from midfield being a key for them. But up front, I've probably got to go for Andrew Dallas because the top scorer is always the man to look out for.
And Grimsby?
Oh, Grimsby's easy. It's John McAtee, without a doubt. I'm going to say this now, and it makes me look ridiculous, and I'll apologise to Grimsby fans in advance. I would take him at Luton Town in the Championship. I think he's that good. He's a super player. He's excellent on the ball. He works his backside off. He likes to hit a ball from distance, and he's scored a few crackers already this season. He is Grimsby's top scorer ahead of the strikers they've had on the side as well. I'd be tempted to say someone like Disarova because he's made a massive impact off the bench in the playoffs so far. But Grimsby are always about the late show. And if you're looking late on when legs are tired and you just need that one moment of magic, if you've got someone who, with consistency, can put the ball in from 25 yards, can carry the ball up the pitch, I think it gives you one hell of a chance. So for me, and I'm sure Grimsby fans won't slate me for saying this, John McAtee is the key man by a distance.
Let's go to off-the-field stuff. This game has been led in controversy, and it's got nothing to do with the 2 teams. It's to do, once again, with the National League and their ticket prices. Considering the circumstances we are in the cost of living crisis at this present time, for a 5th level player final, ticket prices are ridiculously high.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said this to you before. I can understand the need to cover costs. I can understand the location because that's decided before the teams are settled. So there's no problem with that front. I mean, we had it the same years and years ago. I'm going back a decade. I think it was a decade, maybe even 11 years ago. 11 years ago, AFC Wimbledon Luton at Manchester, the Etihad Manchester Stadium. And it was 41 quid. It's not changed. It's a big issue. it's more expensive to get a regular adult ticket for the National League playoff final than the Championship one. That can't be right. It doesn't matter what you think of what one's fair and what one isn't. Those two stats should not be there. There's got to be a way to bring it in line, to bring it down to £35, £30 and in line with the other playoff finals, because it just doesn't make sense. We're talking about clubs, and I know there's some massive clubs at the top of the National League now, and I know it's a largely professional league, but it is a much more community-based area. There's a lot of teams where they wouldn't be able to take a big crowd, and you're relying then on neutrals and people who want to go see the game, a bit like non-league finals day, which is 25 quid for 2 games, and you get a National League final normally in that one as well. So I don't really understand how the prices can be justified. A big shout out to Grimsby, who I know have done a massive effort to get concessions in for a lower rate from harder backgrounds in the community, which is brilliant. But it shouldn't have to come to that. It's a shame. It's frustrating. It's something that we were talking about 11 years ago. It's something that's still an issue now. Nothing's changed. And it's just a shame for me because the rest of the National League season has been brilliant. The playoffs have been phenomenal. Non-league finals day was a huge success. And ahead of 2 teams that have come into this in brilliant form, created great drama and produced brilliant performances in the playoffs, we're talking about ticket prices. And it's so frustrating.
Would you say it's a worrying sign that the main sponsor for the league has subsidised for Grimsby and for Solihull?
I think it's an issue, not so much for the day. It's a nice gesture and all of that. It doesn't solve the bigger problem. I think the bigger issue is if this isn't coming via Vanarama, because we're led to believe it's the National League setting the prices, and I know they've blamed certain things on the FA, but it's not a Wembley this year, so that can't really be the case.
Wasn't at Wembley last year either.
No, exactly. It was at Ashton Gate, wasn't it? And the issue comes if Vanarama say, well, actually, this is now a bad association for us, because Vanarama have been phenomenally dedicated and loyal to the National League as a sponsor. Probably initially pumped in more money than it was worth. I know that now they're getting great rewards for it because there's a massive sides and massive attendances. But I do worry if you get great sponsors like that maybe say, actually, this isn't right for us now, because we saw prior to Vanarama, there were 4 or 5 different sponsors in 5 years, and there were random names changing halfway through seasons and whatever else. The TV deal is stable with one of the lead broadcasters, but they've been taken over now as well. It's a very worrying time to lose the backing of certain people. So that's my bigger worry for the longer term. But I just hope that this is a turning point and maybe we get something a bit different next year.
Right, let's get back to on the field and let's get that prediction underway. Solihull Moors versus Grimsby, place in the Football League. Do you go for the new team or the experienced one?
I think it comes down a bit like we saw with the League Two playoff final last week. It comes down to who plays the occasion better. In that one, Port Vale were brilliant. Mansfield, who we were certain would turn up, didn't, despite having a number of experienced players. And here we've got a situation where Solihull have been the form team the last 6 or 7 games they've played. Grimsby have been dramatic. They've got extra minutes in their legs, but they've got through in such brilliant circumstances, away at tough grounds, away at hostile atmospheres, that you just think that might give them the ultimate lift, even if they weren't entirely confident before. There were 10 points separating them in the league. They've got almost identical defensive records prior to the playoffs. But in the regular season, Solihull scored bucket loads more goals. I think it was 15, in fact, they scored more. I think this is going to be a much more entertaining game than the other playoffs. I don't think we're going to have one of those cagey affairs, a bit like we saw with the Championship one. I think we're going to see goals. I think it's going to continue the trend we've seen throughout these National League playoffs. I really like the way Solihull play, but you know it as well as I predicted Grimsby to go up at the start of the season. I need to salvage a point in our National League predictions, so I have to back them to edge it because it would be wrong of me not to after predicting them pre-season. I can see that they've got more individual moments of quality in the squad. Solihull are probably a better unit as a whole, but I'm going to go for Grimsby to nick it. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be either 2-1 or 3-2.
For me, I'm going to give you a clue, and if I'm going to go for Grimsby. No, I'm joking. I'm going to go for Grimsby. I think it shows a lot of character to win late on twice. It shows a lot of character to score 5 away at Wrexham. My only concern for for Grimsby is that they conceded 4. But I'm just going to go with Grimsby just for that experience and that momentum with 2 games under them. Yeah, I'm just going to go Grimsby to shade it by a 1-0.
Clean sheet.
A clean sheet, despite
Wow.
my worries of conceding 4 against Wrexham. And that is our predictions for the National League final on Sunday. They're playing at London Stadium. It is on BT Sport. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Football Podcast, give us your prediction on who will get promoted to the Football League, and we'll see you next time.